video is an introduction to some more difficult multiplication problems, but first let's look at a relatively simple one, 24 times 3. So 24 times 3 means taking 24, here's 20 and 4, and having 3 groups of it. So if we added this all up, we would get the answer to 24 times 3. Now sometimes it helps to separate the 24 into 20 plus 4 times 3. Because then we can take the 20 times the 3 and the 4 times the 3. What we're really using here is a property called the distributive property. Distributive property, which says you can take a number times the sum, and that's the same as taking the number times the first addend plus the number times the second addend. So 20 plus 4 times 3 is the same as 20 times 3 plus 4 times 3. Okay, so in this particular problem, that would mean that we could take our 20 times 3 first, and then we can take our 4 times 3. So our 20 times 3 would give us 60. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. And our 4 times 3 would give us 12. And then we could add them together, and we would get 72. So the answer to 24 times 3 is 72. So one way you could do this over here is now just think in your head, 24 times 3, that's 20 times 3 plus 4 times 3. So I can do the 4 times 3 and get 12, and I can do the 20 times 3 and get 60, and I can add them, and I get 72. This is called the partial products method, and it makes sense because I'm finding partial products. So a product is what you get when you multiply numbers. So first I'm multiplying the 4 times the 3, then I'm multiplying the 20 times the 3, and then I'm adding them. Okay, now the way you probably learn to do this multiplication problem is a little different because we in America use a streamlined version of this. We combine some steps so that we can do it simpler. So what we do is we'll say, let's do the 4 times the 3 first, and we get 12. But instead of writing 12, we put the 2 there, and we put the extra 10 from the 12 up in the tens column there. And then we say we have 2 tens times 3, which is really 20 times 3, but we're going to think about them as tens. 2 tens times 3 is 6 tens, plus the 1 extra 10 we had from the 12 is 7 tens, so 72. So what we did is we kind of combined these 2 steps into one. It's a little more streamlined. So that's probably how you're used to doing multiplication, but I want you to know that you are actually using this partial products method, just streamlined version. You are using the distributive property. You are multiplying the 4 times the 3 first to get 12, and then you're multiplying the 20 times the 3 to get 60, and you're adding them. That's what's really happening here. Now let's look at a little more advanced one. Okay, so similar numbers to the last one, but instead of 24 times 3, let's do 24 times 30. Now this is really just 24 times 3 times 10, because 3 times 10 is 30. So we already know that 24 times 3 is 72. We just did that. And then if we multiply 72 times 10, when we multiply a number by 10, we add a 0 to it. So we know the answer will be 720. Okay, so now we'll use our multiplication algorithm here. So an algorithm is just a method of solving a problem. So what we're going to do is we are multiplying 24 by 30, but this 30 we're going to think about as 3 times 10. And we know that when we multiply a number by 10, we add a 0 to the end. So we're going to put a 0 there right away because we know our number is going to end in a 0. Okay, so now we can do the 24 times 3 part, this part. So now we can use what we did on our last problem. We could do the 4 ones times 3 is 12. 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 720. So we get the same answer. But within here, we are actually doing this. We are recognizing that 24 is 24 times 30 is 24 times 3 times 10. We're putting the 0 there because the number times 10 adds a 0 to the end of it. And then we're doing the 24 times 3, and within there we're actually doing the 20 times the 3 and the 4 times the 3. We're doing the 4 times the 3 here, which is 12, and then we're doing the 2 tens times the 3, 6, plus the extra 10, 7, 720. So we're within our algorithm here, we are using that distributive property, and we are using our knowledge that when you multiply by 10, you add a 0 to the end of the number. Okay, so that's that one. Now let's go a little more advanced, and let's do 24 times 13. Okay, so again, we are going to use the distributive property. Instead of multiplying 24 by 13, we're going to multiply 24 by 10 plus 3. And we're going to use the distributive property to do 24 times 10 and 24 times 3 and add them together. So we're going to need to do 24 times 10, and we're going to need to do 24 times 3. And then when we add those together, it's the same as 24 times 13. So what we're going to do first is we're going to do the 24 times 3 first. So here, 24 times 3. So 4 times 3 is 12. We have an extra 10. 2 times 3 is 6, plus the extra 10 is 7, 72. So this is 24 times 3. But now we need to do the 24 times the 10. So now we think about how when we're multiplying a number by 10, we add a 0 to the end of it. So we put our 0 there. Now we're just multiplying 24 times the 1, which is 24. And then we add, because this here is the 24 times the 10. So now we add, and we get 312. And so again, we have the 24 times the 3 here, the 24 times the 10 here. We add them together and we get 312. Let's do another one. Okay, we'll go a little more advanced. 325 times 54. Okay, so again, what we're going to think of is this is really 325 times 50 plus 4, because 50 plus 4 is that 54. 325 times 54 is the same as 325 times 50 plus 4. That's where we use the distributive property, and we say, well, that's the same as 325 times 50 plus 325 times 4. If we add those together, it's the same as multiplying 325 times 54. So over here we're going to do these two steps. So first we're going to do 325 times the 4. So we say 5 ones times 4 is 20 ones, so that's 0 ones and 2 tens. Put the extra 2 tens over the tens. 2 tens times 4 is 8, plus 2 more tens is 10 tens, which is 1,000. Or is 100, I'm sorry, which is 100. Now the 300 times 4 is 1200s, plus 1 is 1300. So right there is the 325 times the 4. That's what this line is. Now we need to do the 325 times 50. So here's where we think we're multiplying by 50, so our number is going to end in a 0, because this is really 325 times 5 times 10. I'm going to write that here. This is really 325 times 5 times 10. So if we're multiplying by 10, our number is going to end in a 0. So now we just do the 325 times 5. Right? We do this part. So 5 times 5 is 25. I'm going to cross off my numbers from last time. 5 times 5 is 25, so I have 2 extra tens. Put it over the tens. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 2 is 12. With 12 I have an extra 100. So 3 times 5 is 15, plus 1 is 16. Now I add them. 0, 5, 5, 7, 1. 17,550. So this one right here is actually the 325 times the 50. So what I'm doing is adding 325 times 4 plus 325 times 50, and I get what 325 times 54 would be. Let's do one final problem where I don't write out the extra things over here. Let's just try to think about this one in our head more. So we have 618 times 72. So we're going to think, okay, we're multiplying 618 times 2, and then we're going to multiply 618 times 70, and we're going to add that together, and that will give us 618 times 72. So first we're going to do is 618 times 2. So we take the 8 ones times the 2, we get 16 ones, so that's 6 ones and 1 10. Extra 10 goes up there. We have the 110 times 2, which is 2 tens, plus the extra 10, which is 3 tens. And then we have 6 hundreds times 2, which would give us 12 hundreds. Okay, so that right there is 618 times 2. All right, now we need to do the 618 times the 70. Now we think 618 times 70 is 618 times 7 times 10, because 70 is 7 times 10. When we multiply a number by 10, we add a 0 to it. So we know our number will end in 0. And we're keeping in mind here that what we're doing here is we're doing 618 times 70. Okay, so we took care of the multiplying by the 10 part. Now we need to do 618 times 7. So we think of 8 ones times 7 ones is 56. So we have 5 extra tens. 110 times 7 is 7 tens, plus 5 is 12 tens. So we have 2 tens, but then the extra 10 tens become 100. 6 hundreds times 7 is 42, plus 1 extra 100 is 43. Now we add a lot of 4s there. 44,496. And you can see that our answer is just found by finding 618 times 2 and 618 times 70, adding them together.